So you've watched 2 videos about how to actively listen to people speak, but now we're going to talk about actively listening to music. So why do we actively listen to music? Music is all around us all the time. It always makes our television shows and our movies more exciting. But the reason it's important to actively listen to music is it helps us appreciate and see beauty all around us. It helps us connect with other people who are like us and that are unlike us. And it also helps us have a very long memory. It helps our memory get bigger and our ideas get stronger. It's also important to listen to music actively if you want to become a musician. Even if you want to be the family musician, your community's musician, or maybe you want to become a YouTube star or become a superstar musician, or maybe you want to be a classical musician. You need to be a good active listener. So 2 things to remember is that the same things that block you from listening to people are going to block you from being an active listener in music. The same tips to being a good active listener to people speaking is the same thing that helps you be a good active listener in music. So while you're listening to music, if you're daydreaming, rehearsing what you want to say or what music you want to do, filtering, judging the music before you give it a chance, or you have other distractions, those are going to keep you from listening actively to the music. Tips to being a good music listener, an active music listener, are look. Now, obviously, sometimes you're only listening, you can't see the performers. So a good way to look at the music is to close your eyes. Take everything out of your mind, all the thoughts and feelings that you've been feeling, take it all away, close your eyes, and just listen to the music. And that's a good way to look at the music. Paraphrase or summarize the music. So you can play the music back in your brain, or you can sing back the music. I'm sure that if you've heard a catchy tune, that you have found yourself singing it back later. Reflect on the music after you've listened to it and think about what it might have meant or what the composer wanted to convey. Connect with the music by thinking about other music that you've heard with similar instruments or similar sounds. You might hear one piece of music that's an entirely different genre of another music, but it might share the same instrument. Ask questions about the music. When was this written? Why was it written? What is it meaning to say? Just because music doesn't have words doesn't mean it's not conveying a message. So now we're going to talk about active listening in music. So I'm going to compare something that you do with your eyes with something I want you to do with your ears. So remember this picture? This picture has a lot of elements in it, and when you first look at it, it just looks like some blue and oranges and some grays. It has a nice black frame, it has nice matting, but I want you to pay attention to what is right here in the middle. So think about 3 things that you saw in the picture. It could be the color, it could be a detail, it could be an instrument, it could be a shape, just some general things. And then I'm going to show the picture to you again. This time I want you to point out with your mind certain elements. So specific things that you might not have noticed before. And one of the things I love about this picture is every time I look at it, I see something new. Okay, great. Now, did you see a person in the picture? What color did you see in the picture? Did you notice another color? Did you notice something this time that you hadn't seen before? Okay, now we're going to see it again, and we're going to talk about all the different things that I see in the picture. And I'm sure that Miss Gordon could point out some other things that I don't notice or don't recognize as art elements. I'm sure that you can point out some things about art elements that I would not notice at first either, because I'm a musician and I pay attention to a lot of things that I hear versus things that I see. So if you look right here, there is a big tuba-like looking instrument with people coming out of it. I did not notice that the first time I saw the picture, but after looking at it for a few times, I saw that. Another thing is this big bass. One of the reasons I love this painting is because it has so many basses in it, and bass is my instrument. Did you notice the basses up here at the top? Another thing that I really like about this picture is that it starts in the center and it comes up and around and around and around, and it has a lot of movement in the picture. I love it how the conductor is in the middle of the movement, and he shows how he's making all the instruments move and create different things in different ways. We even have a couple singers down here at the bottom, and we have a timpani up here on the top. Here's another instrument right here with people coming out of it. And the instruments are taking different shapes as they move around. So it's a fun painting. But when I first saw it, again, I saw blue, I saw orange, and then the first thing I saw was the conductor, and then I started seeing the instruments, and then I started seeing the detail of the instruments. You might have seen something else first, and that's okay. So now let's do that with a piece of music. So when we listen to music on the radio, popular music, it might not have all the textures and layers that classical music has. So when somebody hears classical music for the first time, a lot of times it just sounds like noise. So I have something queued up from Beethoven. Beethoven was a man that lived a long time ago, and he created some music that we still listen to today. So we call that classical music. There's even music called classic rock. People that made music a long time ago, and we still listen to it today. So listen to it and tell me what you hear, and then we're going to listen to it again. And just like the classroom, sometimes technical challenges occur. Okay, so the first thing I heard is that it started out soft and it got louder. Did you hear that? Did you hear that it got soft and got louder? The next thing I noticed is that it started with a few instruments and it grew to a lot of instruments. Let's listen again. Okay, so I also noticed that it started out with just strings, and then it added woodwinds, and then it added brass, and then it added percussion. So everybody was playing, but it was like adding. So it didn't just add instruments randomly, and it didn't start with the percussionists. It didn't start with the tuba player. It started with the strings. They added the woodwinds. Then it added the brass, and then it added the percussion. And those are all the families of the orchestra, of the symphony orchestra: the strings, the woodwinds, the brass, and the percussion. So it added them, starting with the softest instruments and going to the loudest instruments. That was interesting too. Okay, let's listen to it again and see if we can notice anything else. Okay, so another thing I noticed is that when the strings they started, at the first few times I've heard this, I kind of thought it was just a little, kind of like a static sound. But it wasn't really a static sound, it was da 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 da. So there was a rhythm there, it was beginning. Another thing I noticed is that as it went on, it was kind of layering upon layering, so each instrument would come in like this, but then it all stopped and it goes da 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 da. So all the instruments played the same thing. So all the instruments were kind of layering on top of each other, playing different things at different times, and then they all played the same thing at the same time, the same rhythm and the same. In this active listening example, I used Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Beethoven was a composer that lived from 1770 to 1827. That might seem like a long time ago, but he was so good at what he did, we still listen to his music today. So, he wrote 32 piano sonatas, 1 opera, 5 piano concertos, many string quartets, and 9 symphonies. So this was taken from his last symphony. A symphony, it means agreement. And so all these musicians come together to agree on one type of music or one music that they're going to play together, and it creates an incredible sound. A symphony, when these people come together and they play a piece of music called a symphony, it is composed of 4 movements. 1, 2, 3, 4. We listened to the beginning of the first movement. The first movement introduces a theme and an idea. The second movement is slower. It might have some of the same elements, but generally it's a contrast. The next movement reiterates some of those same ideas, but it's a fun movement. It's either fast, it's a dance, but it has like a fun element to it. And the last movement is more like a summary. Symphonies do tell a story that words just can't express. So when you're listening to the symphony that I've linked at the bottom of the page, I hope you'll listen for that story and what it's trying to tell you. So when we're listening to music, we can enjoy a wider variety of music and enjoy music more and relate to more people when we can actively listen to music as well as passively listening to music. This has been your active listening lesson. I hope you'll use active listening with your friends to make better relationships, with your family to become closer with your family, with your teachers to get a better education, and with music so that you can appreciate all the beauty that surrounds us every day. I love to hear from my students and I'd love to see you. So keep learning and hope to see you soon.